All right, let's get right into this unbelievable true story that unfolded on a remote island right at the end of World War II. It's a wild tale of survival, power, and a mystery where, honestly, the truth is probably buried forever. So picture this. It's 1944. The war in the Pacific is still raging. A group of 33 Japanese nationals, that's 32 men and just one woman, end up completely stranded, cast away on this tiny remote island called Anatahan. Now, fast forward 7 years. It's 1951 when they're finally rescued and brought back to civilization. But here's the thing. Only 21 of them are left. 20 men and that one woman. So what on earth happened to the other 12 people? That's the million-dollar question, right? It's a question that would spark an absolute media frenzy, create a legend that swept through Japan, and become a story where the answer, well, it really depends on who you ask. Okay, so to really get this, we've got to go back to the very beginning. The whole story revolves around a woman named Kazuko Higa. Before everything went sideways, she was living on a little agricultural plantation on Anatahan with the plantation manager, a guy named Kikuichiro. Her actual husband was away, stuck on another island. And then, bam, their whole world gets turned upside down. 31 sailors, most of them just kids in their late teens and early 20s, wash up on shore after their ship goes down. Kikuichiro, probably fearing the worst, immediately tells the sailors that he's Kazuko's husband, to protect her. And just like that, this very strange new community has to figure out how to survive together. For the first couple of years, things were, well, they were stable, I guess you could say. A fragile peace. They were so cut off from the world that even when American ships passed by, shouting over loudspeakers that the war was over, they didn't believe it. They thought it was a trap and just stayed put. But in the summer of 1946, something happened that changed absolutely everything. That fragile peace, it was all about to be blown to pieces by something they found in the wreckage of a crashed American bomber. A single object that would completely rewrite the rules of their tiny society. I mean, the shift was immediate and just brutal. The sailor who found the pistol, he didn't waste any time. He used it to threaten Kikuichiro, the supposed husband, and basically took Kazuko for himself. He became her second husband. Just like that, the power dynamic on the island was shattered. And that one act, it just kicked off this horrifying, deadly chain reaction. Not long after, Kazuko's second husband, the guy with the gun, turns up dead under very mysterious circumstances. Then, Kikuichiro, the plantation manager, is also found dead. Then her third husband is murdered by the very man who then becomes her fourth. It's insane! So you can imagine as rumors start flying and the men start blaming her for all this infighting, Kazuko gets terrified. She's convinced they're going to turn on her next. So she makes a run for it. She flees into the jungle, hides out for a whole month, and finally, somehow, manages to signal a passing American ship and get off that island for good, leaving all the remaining men behind. So she gets back to Japan, but the story is far from over. In fact, this is where it gets really wild. When she arrives, she finds out her real husband, who thought she was dead this whole time, had already remarried. So she's alone, with nothing. The only thing she has is her incredible story. Oh, and the media? They went absolutely nuts for this. Her story, a lone woman surviving with dozens of men, filled with jealousy, conflict, death, it was sensational. It spread like wildfire. The press gave her a title, the Queen of Anatahan. And she ran with it. I mean, she totally leaned into this fame. She toured all over Japan in a stage play about her life. She even starred as herself in a movie. At this point, to the public, she was a hero, a strong, brave survivor, a symbol of resilience. But then, a year later, in 1951, the rest of the survivors, the 20 remaining sailors, are finally rescued and brought back to Japan. And when they started talking to the press, they had a very, very different story to tell. Yeah, they started publishing books and giving interviews, and they painted a very different picture of Kazuko. They called her a cunning manipulator who pitted them all against each other for her own benefit. This, plus some really terrible reviews for her acting, completely flipped her public image from hero to villain, almost overnight. I mean, the stories just did not line up at all, and her own story kept changing. Take Kikuichiro's death, for instance. First, she says it was food poisoning. Later, she claims he was murdered by another man. The sailors, though, they just said it was suspicious, all part of this dark pattern of violence that had taken over the island. And this is really the heart of the whole mystery, isn't it? The body count. As soon as the public pressure mounted, Kazuko backpedaled. She started saying, oh, only 2 men died fighting over me. The rest were accidents or illness. But the sailors were adamant, no, at least 9 men died because of the fighting that she started and stirred up.
And that was pretty much it for her. The damage was done. Public opinion turned against her completely. The movie offers, the plays, it all dried up. The woman who was once the celebrated Queen of Anatahan became a total outcast.
So Kazuko just disappeared from public life. She moved out to the countryside, eventually got remarried, and ran a small restaurant, living a quiet life completely out of the spotlight. She passed away from a brain tumor in 1971, taking the absolute truth of what really happened on that island with her to the grave. So here we are, more than 70 years later, still asking, who was Kazuko Higa? Was she some kind of wicked manipulator who orchestrated all this death? A tragic victim of terrible circumstances? Or was she just a survivor, someone doing whatever it took to stay alive in an impossible situation? It's a story that still grabs us because it's really about human nature under extreme pressure. And it shows you just how powerful a story can be. Powerful enough to create a queen, and just as powerful to destroy one. The only people who know for sure what happened are gone, leaving behind a mystery that will probably never, ever be solved.